Now, in a continued purge on Deputy President William Ruto's allies, President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday kicked out several of Ruto loyalists from the parliamentary leadership at the National Assembly positions. The National Assembly Majority Whip and Mumias East Member of Parliament Benjamin Oshali, his deputy-nominated Member of Parliament Eseli Simiyu, were kicked out during a meeting held at State House in Nairobi. However, the leader of the Majority Party and Garissa Township Member of Parliament Adan Duale survived the purge after what is said to be a change of tune from the party leadership. Here's that update.
In the new changes announced by the President in the Jubilee PG meeting, Navakolo MP Emmanuel Wangwe replaces Washali as the Majority Whip, while Igembe North MP Maoka Maore replaces Mbarire as the Deputy Whip, while Aden Duale retains his post as Majority Leader. According to reports, Maore is said to have initially been fronted by opposition leader Raila Odinga as the majority leader to represent the Meru region after the kicking out of Senate Deputy Speaker Kithure Kindiki and Meru Senator Mithika Linturi from their FAT positions. During the same PG, President Uhuru appointed Amos Kimunya to serve as the Secretary of the Jubilee Coalition Joint Parliamentary Group. Other Jubilee Party National Assembly officials who have retained their seats are National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi, Deputy Speaker Moses Cheboi, and Deputy Majority Leader Jimmy Angwenyi. The PG meeting was also attended by Deputy President Dr. William Ruto, who is also the Jubilee Coalition's Deputy Party Leader, Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju, and a total of 212 members of Parliament. The meeting came just a week after President Uhuru seized control of the party and weeded out Ruto allies from key positions. The changes to the party began with a reshuffle of Jubilee's neck and trickle to the Senate, where Ruto allies, Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and Susan Kihika, were ousted. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
Fred Asira, good morning, and Victor Marenda, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us and making time here on the broadcast. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time, and shortly we'll be joined by Philip Mwangale, who is lawyer and commentator on governance and political issues. If I may come to you, Fred, first, in regards to what yesterday happened at State House in Nairobi County. According to the members who attended, they waited for more than 2 hours. The meeting lasted for 24 hours, and we have seen the changes effected at the top at the National Assembly. But interestingly, one man has survived. However, is this perhaps wholly adequate for President Uhuru Kenyatta to restore order and sanity in the ruling Jubilee Party?
What I'd like to say first is that all parties have their constitution, which they have to abide by. And members who join those parties understand the operationalization of those parties and how things need to run. So once you become a member of a party, you are required to toe the party line. It has been evident that there are members of different political parties within this country who do not understand the essence of towing the party line.
Okay.
And that has informed the current purge that we see across board in Jubilee. There's one happening in Lion's Den called Ford Kenya. There's another one.
We'll be coming to discuss that. Yeah. Not forgetting the ODM party. NASA coalition.
Basically all parties. So I think what the president is doing is right within what needs to be done by a party leader who believes that the members who are supposed to give him the numbers and who are supposed to advance some of the policies that they want, some of the issues that they want addressed as a party are not doing so. So if you are given a position in a party and you don't do what you're required by the party, then I think it's a good thing. So yes, I believe what the president or the Jubilee Party leader is doing is right within what a party leader should do.
Okay, yes. Victor Marende, it is of course a norm that is universal across the political establishment, starting off with the Jubilee Party at the Senate, the ODM party, the whipping members from plum positions in the National Assemblies. Junet Mohammed, according to him, this will continue. The ruling Jubilee Party has effected changes yesterday. When you look at this from the holistic perspective, is it perhaps one that heralds a new political dawn for this country in regards to the handshake between the president and the ODM party leader?
Analytically, there are two sides of the coin. One that sticks to discipline and fidelity to your party that sponsored you to parliament. And two, there is precedence to what is being done. Now, on party discipline, I would like to give you at least 3 kinds of democracies in the world. Mm-hmm. Number one, we have South Africa the other day that Zuma
kicked out by his own party.
Was kicked out of presidency by his own party for lack of confidence. And I really want Kenyans to understand that lack of confidence from the party, as they give you the certificate, they never lay down points of confidence. So when they show no confidence in you, it is only right not to ask them why they have shown no confidence in you. Albeit because, for example, if we talk about the deputy speaker in the Senate, for example, when he was sponsored to that position, or the majority leader rather,
okay,
Kenyans were not told that for this and this particular reason,
we have given
them these positions.
Which are constitutional positions.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to a point of removal or discharge from those positions, it is only prudent that they don't involve Kenyans in that mess and to invoke the tribal cards that most of them have tried doing. But then there is also the other card of precedence. And I would want to call it in other aspects bad precedence. And that won't touch on the position of the majority leader or the minority leaders, for example, okay, or the whips. Mm-hmm. But this comes to the essential position of the speaker and the independence of the parliament. Now, when we force speakers to toe party lines and not perform, then we would be setting bad precedents for the future. That so be it, whichever government or whichever party is in government, then you would want the speaker not to portray some universality and some sense of decorum in the assembly.
Which is the concern even as you continue with the giving of the example in regards to 2 other, you have mentioned the ANC, but critically you have also touched on the independence of the legislature,
exactly,
which is a clear institution as enshrined under the 2010 constitution, where the executive, parliament and the judiciary are independent but interdependent, ought to be interdependent. Going forward, then there are some who are expressing concerns that the changes of the Senate and the National Assembly are likely going to be making parliament deficient of its independence. To what length will that be true or have an impact?
It depends. If the reasons for the removal of the deputy speaker of the Senate, as supposedly put, are as genuine as they are, that he is not pushing the Big Four agenda, and he is not doing what he ought to do as the deputy speaker, and as I heard the majority whip in the Senate, Irungu Kangata tried to explain, that there are bills that even passed without procedure through him, then it only means that he was not competent. But then, these are political party positions. So fidelity to the party is key number 1 priority.
Where then do we draw the line? The party sponsored you. You are in parliament courtesy of that party. Then where do we draw the line between the independence of the member and the democracy within the party? In this case, challenging or even standing up to some issues that are wrong and are qualified to be of national discourse that either parties, even the opposition, the ruling party, can express themselves unto.
Independence of the member depends on the ideology of the party. For you to join a party, you subscribe to the particular ideologies of that particular party. For me to have become a member of Party A, I read it and agreed that this is a party that I want to belong to. So when that party is in government, then their ideologies within that particular framework that they set out work within that particular party. So I believe these members should be guided by the philosophies of the parties that they work for. All the same, the independence of the parliament must be protected at the same time.
Okay, so we agree that parliament's independence is key here.
Exactly.
Despite
it
parties
has
wanting
always
members.
been, you see, Ayub, the independence of the legislature and the judiciary is key. It shouldn't be debatable. Unfortunately, in the past, we have not witnessed an independent legislature and judiciary. Now, the problem comes when now it is becoming evident, and the lack of independence starts biting them. You see, the parliament that we are discussing currently is a parliament that has been rubber stamping everything bad that the executive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So the executive has finally reached to parliament, and now it's eating the same people. But I want to assure you that if this parliament had stamped its authority and forced itself to be independent, some of these things that are happening today couldn't have happened, because then the members of parliament will sit down independently and decide that no, we are not going to vote to remove a deputy speaker because of party positions.
Okay.
Because once a party has sponsored a person to become a speaker, they then kind of cease being members of party and start and acquire a status where now they have to serve Kenyans. It will be very dangerous, like my friend has said, if we allow parties to start intimidating offices like that of the speaker.
Exactly.
I remember one time, everybody remembers the so-called Solomonic wisdom that was exhibited by Marende.
Yeah. Senior counsel. Kenneth Marende, the then speaker of the Grand Coalition.
He went against what everybody believed that he was going to do for his party and chose to save the nation. So if we allow parties to start bullying independent offices, then that is not the kind of party towing that you're talking. It's not the kind of fidelity that and the loyalty to the party that you're talking about.
Okay.
We want people to be loyal to parties, yet independent institutions to be allowed to carry out their mandates.
And not forgetting the independence of the party members themselves. Then Freddie, you've mentioned a very key point here in regards to Parliament, after all, which has been the self-infliction of the damage to itself in regards to failure in terms of debating issues that are of concern to the common Mwananchi.
Exactly.
Look at the sugar report, look at the VAT on the fuel, and you look at against the advice of the World Bank and the IMF, I mean, raising Kenya's debt levels to 9 trillion Kenya shillings. So it's a case of now this supplementing the already self-inflicted damage done to itself by Parliament.
Most definitely.
Yes, Marende?
You know, there is a difference between party policies and power games. And as we implement party policies, we must also remember that the constitution is supreme to all. So then I believe once someone has become a speaker or a deputy speaker, the office of the speaker should be treated as a constitutional office that pays its fidelity to the constitution. That is one. Two, the design of the House now lies on Article 108 of the Constitution that now forms the office of the majority leader and the minority leader, and Standing Order number 2 that brings to office the minority and the majority whips in the assemblies. So those are the guys tasked with pushing the party's agenda within the assembly. And with all due respect, I really believe that the office of the deputy speaker and the speaker should be left to be as independent as they are, despite the fact that parties sponsor them to those positions. But then there is this allegation that has been made of Parliament that it has not served its purpose, that Murkomen called it a dead Parliament. I really don't want to call Parliament dead Parliament, because then if we assume that Parliament is dead, then it needs to be dissolved so that we have new members. I only believe that at times they have become irrational and they have not acted in the interest of Kenyans, but then progressively they need to do that, because there are also things that they have done that make sense to Kenyans.
All right, gentlemen, let's hear from what the leader of the majority party, who yesterday survived the ruling Jubilee Party purge, had to say when he addressed presser in Parliament yesterday, and come back, continue with the discussion.
You're using the word survive? I mean, I didn't have an accident. I think the story now is closed. I think you need to ask me what is next. And I'm sure the world has not come to an end today, so we'll have tomorrow. But I want to thank the president. I want to thank the deputy president. I want to thank the members of parliament from our party and partners who have shown confidence in our leadership. And I want to commit that we at all times work for the party, we at all times work for the people of Kenya. That is so I don't freak, my friend. I mean, I have a very long journey, political journey, and I'm sure a day you'll have time to read when I write my memo. But if you read from 2007, the most important thing is when you are given a responsibility, be it in the legislature, be it in the judiciary or in the executive, you must strive at all times to perform to the best of your ability.
Philip Wangale, who is lawyer and commentator on governance issues, joins us alongside Fred and Victor. Gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, Philip. Thank you for coming. And I'm sure you must have been in line with the conversation that we had before you got mic'd up and joined us here on set. In regards to what Honorable Duale did say, and yesterday, what's happening across generally the political arena at the moment, there seems to be a move by the executive to pile exogenous pressure on the bicameral parliament in an attempt to perhaps get done, its business to be get done, but the concern is that this might mute parliament of its independence and deprive of that particular independence guaranteed by the Constitution.
Yes, that is true. To an extent, we are seeing an executive that is very intent on maintaining control over parliament. And we have been talking about independence of the various arms of government. And we must balance between independence and interdependence. Of course, the executive must function with parliament. If the executive has bills that they need to pass, they have laws that will aid their agenda, then parliament must aid the executive in serving Wananchi. The one thing that is frustrating is that we are seeing a scenario where the executive wants to control parliament, and that has been guised as party discipline and party loyalty. But one of the things that we must remember is parliament or members of parliament did not swear to the loyalty pledge. I think you remember the loyalty pledge that
My loyalty.
I pledged my. It is not. It is
They
not.
swore by the Constitution.
Yes, by the Constitution. If they will have sworn the loyalty pledge, then we will understand their loyalty to the president. But that is not the case. They swore allegiance to the people of the Republic of Kenya. So that comes first. In as much as we want to grow our...
What does the act of a member of parliament say? Is it, I swear allegiance to the president?
Not to the president, to the people.
Remember the discussion in 2007
Yes.
at the swearing in?
I remember.
Was it changed?
It was. If you look at the second, it's the third schedule of the Constitution, where it has a different oaths to office. It is to the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Which means the supreme law, which is the Constitution.
Yes.
Because people voted for that
That
document.
principally parliamentarians serve the people of the Republic of Kenya. This issue of allegiance to parties comes second, and it's not supposed to dominate our debate on the performance of parliament.
Party cannot come second, Philip.
Why should
To
party
the
come
Constitution,
first?
Let me tell you.
it logically comes, isn't it? The party constitution cannot override
the party constitution cannot override the constitution.
That's the
But
point.
then parties are important in parliament, and that is why we have parliamentary parties.
Not
because
important
a
than
party,
parliament.
A party sponsors you to parliament.
Okay, who establishes parliament? It's the people, isn't it?
It is the people, yes.
We are constitutional democracy.
It is the people.
The
But
lo-
then,
So
the logical point here,
what should happen when the interests of Wananchi clashes with the interests of the party? Because that could happen. Should then the member of parliament say, I am pledging my allegiance to the party, and every other thing comes secondary?
that is why I insist on party ideologies.
Exactly.
Our parties should be institutionalized to have ideologies.
Which they are not,
Yes.
unfortunately.
They should not have an individual as the manifesto of the party. So when we have an ideology within this party that is obeyed, and that is what sets the difference between the blue and white states and the red states in the USA. That's what sets precedence in Chama Cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania and the ANC of South Africa.
Well, that's a very impractical example to cite, isn't it, for Chama Cha Mapinduzi? Because of lack of respect, suppression. I mean,
you might have your problems with Chama Cha Mapinduzi, but how they govern their party is very
But the
okay.
governance issue is very different. We are under a different dispensation, a new constitution, eloquent, transparent, one of the most admired parties that are I mean, dependent to the extent that today we are very different from the years that preceded 1992 before we repealed Section 2A of the Constitution. I mean, for the ANC,
yes.
well, not a practical example, but for Chama Cha Mapinduzi, I still have some long political way to go.
You see, what we need to appreciate or understand is that we should have parties whose, as he says, whose ideologies align itself with our Constitution. Once you have parties that do not align themselves with the Constitution, you are bound to have friction and conflict as we are witnessing right now, you see. Because it will become very difficult to disassociate a member of parliament from the party, or to force the member of parliament to go against the Constitution at the same time. In instances where we have witnessed such kind of scenarios, in this country, the party position has always prevailed. Why? Because of the consequences that members will face should they adhere to the Constitution.
You know why? Because you know why?
So
it
we
is
have So we have members of parliament who happen to be serving their interests and not the interests of the people. So if I am sponsored by Party A and I want to do the right thing for my people, but I know after doing the right thing there will be repercussions that might make me lose this position, I will retain my position and Jackson the people.
I would tell you why this is happening. Okay, and on that I would agree with Martha Karua. Martha Karua once said that the problem ailing this constitution is we have no total fidelity to the constitution. And we have total fidelity to our parties. If today, as a member of ODM says that the constitution is useless, I can tell you and can guarantee you 90% of the members of ODM might think that the constitution is useless. Or rather Jubilee, for example. Because total fidelity is to that party and not to the constitution. And why is that the case? That is the case because the repercussions of disobeying the constitution are not as dire as the ones that are presented when you disobey your party rules.
They might be dire, but they are not immediate. And you see, the repercussions of disobeying your party are immediate.
Yes.
You disobey the party.
That is true. That is true.
Today you are not an MP.
The ideology simply
which is
put
why
by Machiavelli says that disloyalty is punished immediately and loyalty is rewarded in installments.
Okay, now that's what perhaps might inform Fred's very philosophical point of even as long as you might want to achieve certain aspects for the people, as long as it might go against or clash with the interests of the party, then you refrain.
Exactly.
Meaning you will be fair in the consequences.
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and that is the reason I was saying we must entrench what my brother is saying. We must have parties that are ideological, rather than parties that are based or are rooted on individuals. I remember saying the other time I was here that we really do not have parties. We have organizations that should fall under the ambit of small and medium enterprises.
Or individuals.
Because that is what they are geared to. The wars we are fighting, and it's good that Ford Kenya has these wrangles, because I think Ford Kenya has been one of the beacons of multi-party democracy right from the inception of multipartyism, because there has been healthy internal democracy within the party, though I think now they are going south. But if you take that example, Ford Kenya has not really been centered around individual mostly, aside now from after Moses Wetangula took over, a large period of his leadership within the party was centered around him. But that could be an example of a party that is not centered around an individual. So if we move that direction, if we reorganize our party system, then we'll get to a point where it will not really be a quarrel. Members of parliament will not be quarreling about allegiance to a party, because they will have been chosen on their ideology, they will have been chosen on principle, and their action in parliament will really be centered on their roles as assigned by the constitution and not on their roles as assigned by the political party.
Okay, on that note then, I mean, Fred, if we might expound that, because we have a lot to talk about, and I want your assessments of the cartoon edition. The Jubilee Party, 10th day of September 2016, formed one to end ethnic balkanization, have members across the divide in the country, religion, color, ethnicity, party belonging, formally that is, after folding up more than 10 parties. Today they seem to be heading the wayward direction, and there is fear that there is a cropping up of the individualization of the party as hinted at by Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika. She, of course, is a victim now as we speak. Therefore, and that is largely a culture that is political across the establishment. How do we pedal back from that position and establish parties based on policies, ideologies, and for the betterment of the common Mwananchi?
I think that there are two facets in my view. One, we have the angle that touches on the vote, and that touches on Mwananchi, where citizens will actually vote for parties that stand for something. That is one. The other bit is to reorganize, beginning with our Political Parties Act, to reorganize our party system so that we have the constitution of parties. And this is the unfortunate bit, Ayub, that we have the law stipulating specific requirements of political parties, the Constitution in Article 91 and the Political Parties Act. But on the ground, that is not true. And we have a deficiency with the registrar of political parties because the registrar is a presidential capacity. Is a presidential
since the formation of the office.
Exactly. So it's like the executive can still pull the strings of the registrar of political parties if they wish. Because that is not really an independent office. And given that it is the taxpayer who funds political parties, I think most Kenyans do not know this, that we fund political parties. 0.3% of the national budget goes to funding of political parties. So we must take an active role in making sure that we are keeping these political parties in check. If we don't do that, then we risk what we are now seeing on the floor of the House, what we are now seeing in the executive. And we are talking about a purge, and I think people are excited because it creates conflict, it creates some kind of euphoria, but it is very dangerous for our democracy and good governance in general.
Yes, Victor.
I would just want to pick it from where I left it. There was a reason as to why it was decided that parties should be funded from the exchequer. And this was to remove the individualization of the party, because it was so realized that individuals funded these parties and therefore they took control, total control of these parties. But then the proprietors of this felt that if a budget is allocated from the exchequer to the political parties, then it will remove the hero worshipping within this political party. It has not worked. So definitely we have a document in the Political Parties Act 2010 that is not functional at all, except when you want to bulldoze a party. Like I saw Jubilee appoint members of the Central Committee, maybe regularly or regularly. I don't know how. I'm not a member. I've now seen the same wrangle within Ford Kenya. And you know, the point where Ford Kenya is right now is the point ODM was to be subjected to in 2014 before the Men in Black came in. Most of people do not know the truth.
So the Men in Black rescued the team.
Technically, they rescued the party from the hungry hyenas who wanted to eat the hooves wanted.
Okay, you see, Ayub, political parties, even though they are funded by Kenyans, so to speak, there is a lacuna where a Kenyan can participate in ensuring that a political party also follows the constitution or carries itself as a political party. Why do I say so? You see, if I have a problem with Jubilee, for example, there are very limited chances for me to make Jubilee do the right things which I think should be done, because I will have to become a member of Jubilee first. If I am not, they will technically get me from the point of you are not our member, so you cannot meddle. If you take the precedence of when the ODM wanted to kick Aisha Jumwa out,
yes,
and she opted for Murkomen as
to be her lawyer, and stuff like that. Every time people will try to remind Murkomen that he's not a member of the ODM, so he can't understand what happens in the ODM.
And
forgetting that he's an advocate of the High Court.
Forgetting that he's an advocate of the High Court, and that parties, political parties, should be national outfits, that anybody who understands or who can read and understand a constitution can understand how they should operate. So there are a lot of technical issues that the Political Parties Act should address if Kenyans are to participate in ensuring that these political parties...
Let me just tell Fred one thing,
briefly,
please.
We need to go on break and come back.
Now, there is one bit that you are missing. Kenyans have the opportunity to participate in these political parties. And it is enshrined in the Political Parties Act that each and every party should have representation from the ward level and even from the polling station right now. So we should have polling station officials elected by members of the party. And
Do we have them?
Only one party has, I think.
Which is?
He will say ODM.
No, it is not me saying. In 2015, ODM did a robust grassroots election in this country.
Okay.
But then,
And
subsequently, we need to have parties having representatives from the grassroots level. And like Moi did,
All right.
I might hate Moi for everything, but on running his party, Moi always made decisions at Kasarani. You would always have a delegate conference.
That was the convention of members of the party in deciding the future of the party. But the point is that, Victor, we seem to having a universal political problem across board in terms of how this is affecting all the political parties in the country, and we'll continue with the discussion after the break here on the broadcast. Equally, we'll be thanking our frontline reporters in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, and at the top of the hour, at 12 p.m., we will be giving or applauding the healthcare professionals in the front line in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic and the containment measures so far they are putting in place in ensuring that it doesn't go beyond the borders of Nairobi County or the country, and how the government is responding to the pandemic in regards to cases that continue to crop up on the rising curve of the pandemic in the country. The number is 0791478990, the hashtag on Twitter, NewDayKE, the short SMS code is 40920. So the director is telling me that we are not going to be going for a break, so it's 1 minute to 12 p.m. So we'll be giving a round of applause for our healthcare professionals, and equally we'll be thanking our frontline reporters who have been giving us the coverage in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. And here they are to just name a few in regards to our team that has been at the front line in giving us the regular updates of the COVID-19 pandemic. Here is our reporter Jeff Khaimba, who has been the front line in the reporting of COVID-19 pandemics, bringing the numbers to your screens, and the news team, or the department rather, that has been breaking down the numbers for you. But he hasn't been alone. He was alongside, of course, our cameramen, who have been equally accompanying him to the presses issued by the Ministry of Health officials at Afi House in Nairobi County. They are Thomas Ongoto and Mutai, who is equally one of our camera persons. There are two alongside our driver, who ensured, Abdul Fattah, that logistics are in place in the transportation sector or department in the company. So we say thank you to our reporters equally, who have been bringing us the numbers of COVID-19, and we'll be giving them a round of applause in appreciation of their efforts in what they have done for the company and equally in across the world. All right, and that was in appreciation of our employees, who we thank for their continuing coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we say thank you to them as they bring the numbers to your screens in regards to the government's reporting of the COVID-19 pandemic and the response by the government. Yes, Victor, you had a point?
I think I was almost done.
It hasn't.
No, it hasn't evaporated. I was thinking about the congratulations. and I can confirm that Jeff has been doing a good job. Now, on to what we were discussing.
Yeah.
we were discussing the
Recruiting
issues
of party members
of funding these political parties and how they need to be independent and how the independence of the parties need to be ensured and how members can participate in these political parties. It is well stipulated how members should participate. And even without being a member of a political party, you might rise on a point of being a public, a member of the public. It is allowed. You can go to court on public interest, and no one would take you anywhere. And as friends say, no one would do you anything.
No, but I think one of the areas we need to address is with the registrar of political parties, because the registrar of political parties is not just an administrative office; it is also a watchdog. Because the registrar, and what we have seen in the recent past is the registrar just acting as a clerk, you know, receiving documents from political parties, lodging those documents. But the registrar of political parties, according to the Political Parties Act, is also supposed to act as a watchdog. If parties are submitting a register of members, a register that does not conform to what the law requires, then the registrar must crack the whip. If parties do not adhere to regulations on elections, the registrar must crack the whip. So that is a crack that has been affecting the development of political parties, and partly because the registrar is a political appointee. The president appoints the registrar of political parties, and to an extent, because the president is really involved, and it will not stop with President Uhuru Kenyatta if we don't do anything. The next president, of course, might be a party leader. Will actually be a party leader of a political party. Okay. So when you have members of the executive, and I've said this before, when you have members of the executive actively involved in the management of their own political parties, then you will get yourself at a crossroad, because then they have to balance. They have to make sure that their political party is alive, and they also have to make sure that they are acting in the roles according to what the Constitution requires them to do. So that is something that we need to detach from some of these roles that are assigned by the Constitution. For example, right now, when people are saying people in Jubilee Party are not respecting President Uhuru Kenyatta, well, they might. It's a big challenge, because you don't know whether they are not respecting the party leader or they are not respecting the president. Because
these are two entities,
and whether they are performing their rightful act of criticism
within the party. Yeah. Yes. So that is a challenge that we need to address going forward. That the president should not have anything to do with the management of a political party. Let the party leader be somebody else. If the president or the person who has been nominated by the party is a party leader, then he should cede that position, or whatever position they hold within the party, and concentrate on duties assigned by the Constitution.
Are you giving Ruto the powers to start running Jubilee? You know you are.
Oh, okay.
He might just pick a cue from you.
Well, if he could, let him.
Okay, yes, Fred. Even as we finish up on this topic and head to the lion that seems to be out of the den in the Fort Kenya politics. In respect to what Philip has said, how do we then perhaps instill that institutional efficiency? Because at the moment, the regulations in regards to the registrar of political parties, the president being the party leader and the head of state, appear to be bringing in some sense of giving him the absolute powers to do what he wants and turn the party around as he wants, pluck members, instill or substitute others, as we have seen yesterday. But then how do we come up with regulations going forward now that we have the BPI, common understanding politically, perhaps come up with regulations and enforcement that will instill institutional efficiency, including all these political offices?
It will be important if that office was made a constitutional office where people are not appointed by someone. They go through the process of getting into any constitutional office, and also give the holders of the office tenure of office, so that they don't feel like if I make a mistake, I'll be thrown out, and those kind of things. Also, from what I've gathered from Philip is if they can, we can bestow more powers, so that the office of the registrar can punish.
They have the power.
It looks like it's a minimum if it is there, because if that office cannot come out clearly, especially after what we have witnessed with the Ford Kenya, and tell us their position. They still have to
give ultimatums, to look into the matter.
So it is actually an office that needs to be strengthened in so many other ways.
Just to say something on that, yes. on my last point. One, the office of the Registrar of Political Parties needs to have a substantial office holder.
From
Lucy Ndungu,
yes,
who
still
acted,
in acting capacity.
We have someone still acting. Surely, I think that is out of order. And the president must be brought to order on that issue. He needs to appoint someone there, substantiate. Whether he's going to appoint the current office holder or anyone else, he needs to be a substantial office holder. That is one. Two, Fred, those guys have powers. Do you know, I can confirm that an MP candidate within my constituency in 2017 was barred from vying by the registrar of the office of the registrar.
No, those small people MPs, it gets to the position of the party leader, especially when that party leader is the executive. I assure you they can do very little.
Fred is much focused about biting the flesh.
It shows that when they have the goodwill, they can do something. And where does this goodwill come from? Now, parties should be institutions. When a party is an institution, then it means that the electoral board within the party is tasked with the force of getting a candidate for the party.
Let's go practically, and let me ask you, assuming the party leader of Jubilee erred in appointing the new office holders just recently, do you think the current registrar has the powers to tell the president that you erred in appointing the people you appointed?
I can tell you how we can do it. The registrar can do it. Number one, if we start by institutionalizing the party, so that he is not the party leader, the election board within the party settled on a favorable candidate for the party members, then if so be it that he is the party leader, then he resigns from his position as the party leader. As we have always said, that party officials need not to be candidates in elections.
So those are
so we start from
the interventions you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
So long as we have a party chairman who is still vying as an MP, a secretary general vying for an MP or governor, he will reward himself the certificate. This guy is powerful. So we must first ensure that this is an institution separate from its candidates, and that they have an election board that vets candidates for them. Then through that, you will get people who subscribe to the ideology of the party, which are in line with the constitution.
So
then you get a presidential candidate who wins, who is not a party leader. Then he now will show
what Victor is telling us,
fidelity to the constitution.
It's not what is happening. That's what he wish.
That's what ought to happen.
And that, okay, so we're in agreement.
Exactly. Will it happen going forward?
I think with goodwill.
Okay.
With goodwill.
From whom?
From whom? Now that is where we come to the current process.
Is it political parties? Is it from?
It is the politicians, and politicians do not have goodwill.
The policymakers, of course, will come into
so
the picture.
That is why, I've always abhorred the fact where we are told that a constitution-making process should not be political. Largely, this constitution is implemented by politicians. So then, we are trying to address this in the current BBI, and that's why we are talking about divisive elections.
And the change hinted at by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah. So
that was during the
I believe through the BBI, we are able to address most of this problem. Definitely it can't be.
But does the BBI as constituted and as we have seen, is it geared towards addressing these issues? And the answer is not, because these solutions that we are proposing touch on politicians themselves and their interests. So you will not expect that they would want to change the status quo, because the status quo favors them largely. You would not expect that Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and all these other players within their political parties will want to tinker with what is currently happening, because they will lose the power, they will lose the influence that they're enjoying right now. So for us to lay hope with them, I think we...
Philip, I think it depends on the lens you're looking at. But I believe the politicians can be of goodwill and can do these things.
Then we really have to pray for them to have a change of heart, because as it is...
Much awaited, of course, and hinted at by the president. So we, of course, are optimistic largely in regards to the course correction that needs to be done by the same members of the establishment who have been at the failure endpoint of the service and falling short of the expectations since 1992 when the multi-party democracy came largely into effect in the country. We now head to Mulembe Nation, and here is a story that our team managed to put up together as of yesterday in regards to what's transpiring. The lion that appears to be out of the den in Fort Kenya. Now, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties has less than 2 weeks, that's 14 days, to hear and determine political wrangles facing the two rival camps in the Fort Kenya party. This comes after the two splinter groups filed different documents at the Office of the Registrar under Anne Inderitu to effect changes at the office bearers. Our political affairs reporter Jeff Khaemba has the details of that update.
We want to announce to our members countrywide that don't be in any state of panic. A lot of you have sent messages inquiring what is happening, whether there is a coup in the party. Coups are archaic, coups are anachronistic to good order, and coups are activities of cowards. Wafula Wamunyinyi, I'm told he's the one who has taken the seat of treachery this morning and purported to be the party leader of Fort Kenya.
The mischief has been escalated at a number of meetings led by the leader of a NASA member party whose objective is to destroy and dominate everyone politically. In this, they are aided by the Secretary General of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, KOTU.
But the leadership of Mulembe Nation, there are two people, Moses Masika Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi.
You cannot go to Kajiado to appoint people to lead people in Western Kenya. You can do it in Western. You can see the mischief and the treachery and the cowardice.
That the party leader, Honorable Moses Masika Wetangula, is hereby dismissed from the position of party leader.
One fundamental fact, and I can say it here without any fear of contradiction, is lack of fostering unity within the party.
And as I assume office on interim basis, I am aware of the weight of the challenge ahead.
There's a lot of reorganization that is happening, political reorganization that is happening at the national level. We as a party for Kenya, we want to be part of that discussion.
Philip Mwangale, if I may start with you, what do you think is perhaps the informing point of the growing unease in the Fort Kenya party?
Well, you know, you began by saying that the lion had been let out of the den. I think this lion has been in a coma for a very long time. So I think it's waking up and it's trying to discover its its lionness, if I may use that word. But what is happening in Fort Kenya? If it was on an ordinary day, I mean, if these were ordinary circumstances, it would be a healthy thing to do within the party, if procedure was followed. But if you look at the party constitution, it wasn't. If you look at the party constitution, well, I had the governor of Bungoma, Wangamati, say yes. I'm not a member of Fort Kenya. But I've had a look at their constitution. I have reasons why I have been very keen on on Fort Kenya especially.
Put it on the table, we are here.
I will eventually. Now, if you look at the constitution, I had Wangamati say that they called for a special NEC, and the constitution allows them to do that for the purposes they did. But Fort Kenya has already had grassroots elections. And what was then to follow was elections at the national level. So there's some mischief in trying to pull this action at this time. And we all know why this is happening. It's not because they want to mainstream the party. It's not because they are looking at Fort Kenya's political party health. It's because they want to realign themselves. And this is largely to do with interests. But the unfortunate bit, again, is this, that some of the things that have been, some of the accusations against Wetangula might be true. That he might not have been after the interests of the party. But again, unfortunate is this, that both sides are in R, because you would find the guys who are now calling, with the exception of Eseli Simiyu, the guys who are calling Wetangula evil, carry some bit of the evil that they're lumping on Wetangula. So this it's an unfortunate circumstance. The other issue, when these guys talk about Luhya unity, that is a very fallacious phrase, Luya unity. Because these guys have exemplified greed at the highest level. They are elected, and then they come to Nairobi, and they are busy pulling towards themselves and trying to enrich themselves. And one of the things that the people of Western Kenya are looking at especially is what these people have actually done. You cannot come to a press conference or the national platform and then say you want to realign yourselves so that your people get resource allocation. And this is a
who do they want to realign themselves with?
Of course, they want to realign
the
themselves
discourse
with the
Jubilee,
president and
the Kanu Party,
yes, exactly.
the handshake generally.
And it is not for the people. It is not for the people of Western Kenya. That is clear. It is for themselves. They want positions. They want wealth. Some of these people who are on the forefront saying, "Oh, we are looking at democracy within the party," these are people who have, for the life of their political life, have been after self-aggrandizement. They have amassed wealth for themselves using political party strength within Western Kenya.
Fred Asira, of course, party is subject to changes. No law is written by a permanent ink. Subject to amendments, of course, that happens globally. Why the timing now for Ford Kenya?
I don't want to speak much about Ford Kenya and why now, because there are a lot of interests I may have.
Well, you can spill the beans.
No.
You also wanted me to say my
interest. This is not the right forum for that. But what I would like to say, first of all, is that Ford Kenya has been dormant. Ford Kenya was dwindling. And Ford Kenya was becoming an ineffective party. So it is only right that someone should excite the party and make it vibrant.
That person is not Wamunyinyi.
You know, Mangale seems to know something about Ford that we don't.
It is not. I have some understanding of Ford Kenya and these individuals especially, because I come from Bungoma County, and I know these individuals. I know what they're after. Wangamati, on one hand, is trying to cover his misdeeds within the county. He's trying to appear as though his interests are for the party, just because Moses Wetangula has been calling out corruption within the county. So if again he's followed for his corrupt deeds within the county, then it will look like the party leader is fighting him. I think it's just a cover-up.
More or less. Okay, go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, so what I was saying, okay, I don't know about Wamunyinyi and his capabilities to lead the party. He has none. But at least their action has started or started a debate. So at least he's better off than Wetangula, you can see so far. But you see, that what has come out from all this, in essence, is what I have to say is the people who, instead of understanding that political parties do have their challenges and should address their challenges, have taken this infight from Ford Kenya and are spilling it over to other political parties. So instead of people finding out what is happening in Ford Kenya, you find the likes of Musalia Mudavadi bringing the war to ODM and
Kotu Secretary General.
And Kotu Secretary General. What he seems to forget is that in 2013, when his political star was dwindling, when he was labeled Madimoni by some forces that I don't want to say right now, it is Atwoli who paid, apparently, some students of the UON to carry out a research or a survey that took Musalia Mudavadi and made him the Luya leader.
Story as told by Atwoli.
No, listen.
He will later come to crown him in 2016.
He will later come to crown him in 2016. And that is the time, again, that he was picked and given a plum position to become a NASA co-principal. And this one gave him life. Now, it is the same people who gave him life that he wants to fight, instead of addressing the issues within the Mulembe nation as he wants. Now, what I'm picking from the entire Ford Kenya wrangles is that there are political parties or people who want certain political parties to toe certain lines, but they cannot be seen to be doing that. So we will witness not only what is happening in Ford Kenya, but probably in ANC, I don't know. But as the body language of Musalia Mudavadi is telling
further political coups.
So we might witness more political, I don't want to call them coups, but political disagreements and people trying to rejuvenate other parties that were asleep so that they can bring certain numbers to certain quarters.
Okay, before Victor comes in, I just want to query you on this. There seems to be then that when you say there's likely forthcoming changes in ANC, we are now at the Ford Kenya level. We have seen that happen at the KANU level. We have seen that happen at the ODM level. We have seen that happen at the Jubilee Party level. What is the connection point of all these changes happening across the political board?
I think political parties have just realized that they need to.
Really? No, I think
but they can't realize
yes.
At the same time.
You know, you want to speculate something which I don't think it's right, but
but something must be.
This is the fact, Ayub, that these shake-ups are towards BBI and amendment of the constitution.
Fact
is it
now,
a fact?
Fact is that something must trigger something for something to happen.
But something
now,
can trigger
for most of what happened in Africa, it was triggered by the fall of the Berlin Wall. So we have to agree that something has to trigger something. And why are we so hell-bent on wrong timing? What is right timing and wrong timing on a sweeping of political
But the point
parties?
is that it doesn't apply to this context. I mean, the fall of the Berlin Wall equally ended the Soviet Empire. I mean, brought in some sense of what has happened in Kenya, for instance, in the multi-party democracy.
That is why I'm saying
changes across the world. It never happened.
Something must start somewhere. So the beginning of BBI might have been the sanitization of politics in this
meaning
country.
that the trajectory of these changes in all of the political parties is the BBI.
I'm not saying it's the BBI.
But but
you're saying that is
let me explain my connection of BBI to these political parties.
Okay, from the onset you say the BBI triggered this.
Yes.
So what is the point? What is the direction of trajectory?
BBI is about sanity in this country. Now, when we talk about sanity with parties with a lot of insanity, then we might be lying to ourselves. Now, and I want to align myself properly to Ford Kenya, for example, and look at the history of Ford Kenya when it began as Ford. The party leader was Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, may the Lord rest his soul in peace, and the former vice president, Wamunyinyi. Two men of high impetus in this country. Men who stood for something. Now, the next party leader now after the dispute that brought Ford Asili and Ford Kenya, the original Ford remained with Jaramogi, and Ford Asili went with Kenneth Matiba. And equally, Matiba was a man who was not just any man around. Now, fast forward to the next party leader, who was Wamunyinyi, a man who spoke to what happened in this country. Then came the incompetent Musikari Kombo, who was our former deputy vice president. So then the party started facing wrangles. Then look at how Moses Wetangula came into office. Through a shrewd way that is the same thing that is happening today. Is the same thing that Moses Wetangula did.
All right.
But save that for another discussion.
Okay.
Why is the Mulembe nation the only community in this country talking about a community unity? I've never heard Luos talking about Luo unity.
But they have been voting.
Is it the problem of Mulembe nation that other communities are not talking about?
It is the problem that will ail this country for a long time, because we need to be talking about Kenyan unity.
Some might argue, Victor, before I come to Philip, some might argue that the voting pattern in the Mulembe nation is so democratic that anyone can garner a certain amount of vote.
It's okay.
Unity isn't the factor here.
We need
it's
to
about
talk
what
about
Philip mentioned about an echelon at the top who want to satisfy their interests at the expense of name tagging the people of Mulembe nation.
You know,
not the region itself.
On satisfying interest and the personal interest, I personally know Wamunyinyi.
And not
then,
for
then
the,
you must know that he's very underwhelming.
Not for the reasons that he wants to become a party leader.
but Victor, if I may corner you, if it's not democracy, that underpins the voting pattern in the Mulembe nation, then why is the ODM party leader Raila Odinga more popular than even Musalia Mudavadi, who hails from the region?
Because Raila Odinga speaks about Kenyan unity, and that is why I'm saying.
So the point
we need not.
Okay, the point is that the people vote on what the parties are fronting forward in terms of the pledges and what's
exactly. We need to concentrate more on Kenyan.
Meaning
unity.
they're democratic and cannot be driven in terms of the ethnic direction.
I really don't want to speak about Ford on behalf of Ford Kenya.
Okay, not for Kenya.
My friend Philip can. Because he seems to, but what I need to understand, having read, you know, I've taken my time to read the wrangles in Ford Kenya, since allegations, because I heard Musalia laying allegations on the Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga that we are involved. For heaven's sake, we cannot be involved in a party that we have been in. That is a party where Raila Odinga started.
I think
politics.
that is even more reason why
I'm not getting sufficient answers to my question. But Philip, yes. Let me just ask you this.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the voting pattern of the Mulembe nation since the demise of the late Vice President Kijana Wamalwa, you look at how they have been voting, and the voting pattern is so different, so segmented, that you will feel that there is representation of all the political players and the political parties in Western Kenya. If it's so democratic and has voted on pledges, what they think is right as presented by the political parties, why the need to ethnically drive them in one direction?
First, I must say this. You know, many people don't know why it is called Mulembe. Mulembe means hospitality. And the Luhya community, and most of the time when you talk about Luhya community, we lose the specificity of the different sub-tribes within the Luhya community. There are very many. And if you were to take each sub-tribe of the Luhya community and ask them what direction are you going, you will not get a specific answer, because we are that hospitable. We are hospitable to different ideologies, different political parties and so on. But this is the other bit that we should really focus on. When you talk about Mulembe Nation unity, we are not talking about Mulembe Nation uniformity. They are two different things. When it is uniformity, you will have the whole community vote one direction. But when it is unity, you have a sense of purpose. You understand that you need development. You understand that you need proper leaders. And the reason why, and I think the only positive thing that I saw with Wetangula's press statement together with Musalia is that you had people from different political parties come together. And that exemplifies the hospitality that that community has especially. So when these leaders are talking about unity, and this is what annoys me, is when they're talking about unity, what really they're referring to is uniformity, that the community should vote one direction. Okay. The community, when they come together and say this is our spokesperson, then the community should vote that person, even when that person is not competent enough to represent the community. That is what is frustrating. But if we are talking about unity in the sense of us understanding, and for all communities, I'm not underscoring national unity. That is important. But for us to get to a point where we have national unity, we need to have communities that understand themselves, not so that they pull towards their direction, but so that they can take that understanding to the national level. And one of the problems that we have in this country is not ethnicity. Ethnicity is a good thing, but we have ethnocentrism, where we have communities that want to pull towards the direction and as against other communities. And this is something that the Luhya community and Mulembe Nation should not get to. And it's unfortunate that these leaders want to take the Mulembe Nation to that direction. We shouldn't get there. And I should take this opportunity perhaps to speak to these politicians in the West, in the larger Western Kenya. Most of them are elder citizens of this country. And I must say to them that, and I know I speak for very many young people from Western Kenya, that they are a disappointment to what the community stands for. They are a disappointment to other leaders that have come before them. Those elders that have spoken, and our older brothers, they're those who have been elected who are older. They're out of the gap of youth, but they are youthful. Okay. And these people, if they're listening to me, they should know this, that you will be remembered for nothing. Because if you concentrate on building your own wealth and not building your people, and by your people I do not mean your tribes or your sub-tribes, I mean building Kenyans who come from that region, then you'll be remembered for nothing. And you know, the other day the president was quoting Top Boya, Jaramogi Oginga, and Jomo Kenyatta.
Paper number 10 of 1965. Yes,
and Musalia and Wetangula were also quoting, especially Wetangula was also quoting the founding fathers of Ford Kenya. I think we have now gotten to a point where we are engaging in divination. We want to invoke spirits of those that went before us. Yet we should concentrate really on the issues that we have.
On what Philip please, Fred. Let Fred. Allow me. I just want to plug in something there.
Hold on. Fred, please, get the time.
So that I don't forget.
Okay, there is some evaporation.
Yeah. I know, Victor. We will have a...
No, just on that one. You know, it's not trying to invoke the spirits of those who are died.
That was on a later note.
Yeah, but then I think we need to study what those guys were quoting critically, Ayub. And if you can get a session, please, so that we analyze the exact quotes that the president quoted from Not Yet Uhuru. Because it's a book that I've read so keenly. And the quotes that he got from the late Top Joseph Mboya, and merge them with what Moses Wetangula was talking about. And you realize that this country is a country that has not yet come to what it should achieve. Okay. But that, just on a lighter note, please, I think students in this country need to do two courses. And one is to study Atwoli properly. Not to study history. It is history, but I'm more interested in Atwoli, who endorses a kingpin. Then, after endorsing a kingpin, he is purported to be in another party, which is KANU, and says it daily that he's a member of KANU.
Lifetime member.
Lifetime member. But then his candidate goes to another coalition, contrary to his party, and this is still his man.
Perhaps maybe what Philip has elaborated earlier.
Atwoli stands for nothing.
Very cheeky character.
People fear saying this to him because it looks like he wields a certain kind of influence within the country. But you know, my father is elderly. He's an octogenarian, and my father is very wise. And I think he represents our elders who are very wise. But Atwoli is an exception. He seems to celebrate, and people around him seem to celebrate senility as a gift.
No, I think I think you're misguided.
Okay.
The guy seems to be intelligent. If you hear him speak,
yes,
he speaks with some intelligence that we need.
Notwithstanding his personal problem.
Yes, that is my personal.
Yes,
okay. You see, there's the challenge that we are facing when it comes to the elusive Mulembe unity that we are here discussing. You see, in Kenya, politics is ethnic. It is very difficult for people to vote outside their ethnicity. Of course, there are exemptions, very little. So when you go to the Luo nation, for example, you will find that they vote in a certain pattern. When you go to the Kikuyu nation, they will vote in a certain pattern. So are the Kambas and the rest. But now you go to Western, then you find the differences that you are talking about. And it's very key because what people do not understand is the clanism that is in Western. That there are so many sub-tribes that some of these sub-tribes feel that the other sub-tribe is not their tribe. So they might not agree on the same thing. So you will find that it becomes very difficult for a person who is calling himself a Luya, or actually is a Luya, to bring these different sub-tribes together because they will look at him as a certain sub-tribe. So that is why you find that what you're asking, Ayub, it becomes very easy for someone like Raila to speak on behalf of a larger Luhya group than you will find any Luhya bringing the other Luhyas together.
Yet he hails from the region, he or she.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is why you will find Musalia is struggling to bring Luhyas together, Weta is struggling to bring Luhyas together, Atwoli is struggling to bring Luhyas together, but Raila can bring these Luhyas together.
But that was not...
No,
all right.
I was going there.
Okay.
That is above being a national figure. That is why I started by saying that our politics first are ethnic before they become national.
National. Yes,
one
universal question. Let's finish up and then one universal
question. Yes, a moment. You know, when you talk about clanism and sub-tribes, I remember Michael Wamalwa Kijana. And Michael Wamalwa Kijana appealed to the whole Luhya community because he was reasonable, because he was charismatic, because he was a leader. The unfortunate thing that we are having amongst these individuals is because they do not demonstrate any of those qualities of Michael Wamalwa Kijana. Not at all. They are after their own interests. And this is one thing that... well, not really. I'm not really talking now about Ford Kenya. Muskari Kombo had his own issues. But I'm talking about these people that purport to speak for the Luhya nation.
Okay.
They are speaking for themselves. And I think they want...
politicians.
But these ones are peculiar. These ones are very peculiar.
So was Michael Kijana Wamalwa. And the ODM party leader, Raila Odinga, who appears to be having a grip on Mulembe Nation.
Exactly, and this is one thing that let me just finish this. This is one thing that I should laud the Luhya community, because I come from that community. If you speak nonsense, they will call you out for nonsense. If you do not demonstrate reason, they will call you out for that. And what these leaders have failed to do is what has been perennially disturbing them, because they are not reasonable.
Okay.
Well, this is again my personal opinion. They do not exemplify leadership. They do not carry themselves with a national stature. You cannot equate them to people who have come before.
Okay, Fred, I'll start with you. One final question before we take a look at the cartoon and how Duale survived, your assessments of that. In regard to Moses Wetangula now, who seems to be living by the hope of the NASA coalition remaining intact. At some point in 2018, he said, it's oozing blood, it's moribund, it's dead, it's on the deathbed. Why is he hanging on the line of the NASA coalition he once said was dead?
Moses Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi do not know what they want. That's the biggest problem that we have. If they knew what they wanted, we will not be having these wrangles. Today, Musalia Mudavadi will be dangling with a certain political party. Tomorrow, he'll be dangling with so-and-so. They do not stand out and take up a decision once and for all and abide by it. If I was Wetangula, when he sensationally went out in Parliament and spoke of the casualties and the divorce and the mercy and all those kind of things, he should have charted his political path there and then.
But Mudavadi now wants to be the president.
As he said,
he has not. He does not.
He said he doesn't fancy to be the leader of the Luhya unity. He wants to be the president. He says that.
Yes, we wish him well, but what I'm saying is, does he have what it takes without hanging on somebody?
Exactly. That's the question.
That's the problem.
The Luhya people are not looking for a spokesperson.
Okay.
They are looking for leaders.
Yes. Final brief points before we take a look at the cartoon.
On the issue of the Mulembe now, just to talk about the turbulence in Ford Kenya rightly, and not purporting to speak on behalf of the Luhyas, I would confidently say that I admire the personality of Moses Masika Wetangula, especially on intellectual discourse. He's a very sharp man. When you see him on intellectual discourses, he makes a lot of sense. Politically, he's maneuvered. And I can assure you that Moses Wetangula might just beat the odds in this game. Because, for reasons that I can justify, I don't believe Wafula Wamunyinyi qualifies to be a party leader anywhere on this planet.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's have the cartoon on air. Director, can we have that up on the screens? Here is what we have on your screens at the moment, gentlemen. Let's do this briefly. It's the leader of the majority party and the Garissa Township Member of Parliament, Adan Duale, who yesterday survived the purge in the ruling Jubilee Party. But while he hangs on to the tail end of the broom that is cleaning Parliament, he still is not off the hook yet, according to many members of Parliament who yesterday attended the State House parliamentary group meeting of the members of the ruling Jubilee Party. And Philip Mwangale, if I may start with you, how he survived remained the question yesterday, but there appears to be again some within the ruling Jubilee Party who still have no confidence in the leader of the majority party. Briefly.
I personally don't know how he survived because I expected that the axe will fall on him sooner rather than later. But if some people might say he has not been as vocal as the others who faced the same predicament within Senate. He has not been as well, in quotes, insulting to the president and the party leader as the others have been. That could be a reason. The other reason could be that he wields some influence within his quarters. That could be a reason, but he's not off the hook. Okay. If you listen to Duale, he's very cagey and
he's very careful with words.
Yeah, very careful, because he knows anything he says could land him in trouble. And the other bit is now that KANU has gotten into coalition with Jubilee, they now carry some numbers within the National Assembly, and the standing orders of the National Assembly provide that they can bring a vote and remove him. Yeah.
Yes, Fred.
There's something that is very prominent in every cartoon about Duale. His ears.
So he has his ears on the ground.
So I think he has his ears on the ground. He can hear trouble coming. And in this one, if you started listening to him,
yesterday night.
Not even yesterday. I've been trying to follow him for quite some time. From
since the handshake, probably.
He just went quiet. In fact, I remember there are people who used to ask, where's Duale, and those kind of things. So he stopped going out there and focused on his work as a majority leader in Parliament.
As a pastoralist, rather. Because even in Parliament, no bill. As a pastoralist.
So,
yes,
whatever
go
you
ahead.
say.
Finish up. Marende? What are your thoughts? Briefly.
Briefly,
or no thoughts?
On Eden Duale, I think as a majority leader, Eden Duale has served the ruling coalition in the National Assembly.
Especially in the first term?
Yeah. Not even in the first term. Pushing through what Uhuru and Ruto wanted in the National Assembly was the sole responsibility of this guy. And he delivered on it. At no point did Eden Duale think twice about delivering what the duo wanted. He brought it to Parliament and pushed it with a lot of sense and at times nonsensical words. But he pushed what they wanted to the core. So I think that might have played out, that he is a man you can trust with a job. And in politics requires such men.
Okay.
You give him a job,
he delivers.
He delivers. So I think that played a role. Secondly, just as the cartoon edition has it and Fred has said, he has his ears on the ground. And thirdly, Eden Duale sounds as a man of some reasonable respect. When reason requires that you respect, he respects.
Okay.
So he's not been so loud in his opposition of the president and their party leader, despite the fact that we know he is a member of the URP coalition of the wing of the Jubilee coalition.
There's no URP party. It's the Jubilee Party now.
They have been speaking as URP.
Exactly.
Okay. That was the yellow party of the DP, William Ruto. Gentlemen, we ended there. Thank you so much for coming. Philip Mwangale, lawyer and commentator on governance and political issues. Thank you for coming. Fred Asira, thank you for coming and showing up on the broadcast. I appreciate your time. Asante sana. Victor Marende, thank you so much. A lot to discuss in the coming week, and we hopefully, by the grace of God, will be having you here on the broadcast. And thank you to you too for joining us on New Day Kenya from 11 to 1 p.m. The 1 p.m. news will be coming up next in about 10 minutes time. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Good afternoon.